Okay, here's a question I'm sure every tennis fan has thought about at some point. How good would a modern legend like Novak Djokovic actually be if you handed him a racket from the 1990s? Well, in this explainer, we are going to dig deep into that. And trust me, the answer is probably not what you're thinking.
Right, let's just picture it for a second. Djokovic walks out on court, but instead of his sleek, modern head racket, he's holding something Pete Sampras or Andre Agassi would have used. A totally different piece of equipment. Would his game still be as dominant, or would that older tech just completely throw him off his game? You have to remember, rackets back in the 90s were a completely different beast. I mean, they were heavy, they had these tiny little head sizes, and they were way more flexible. These weren't power hitters for you, they were precision tools. They demanded absolutely perfect technique, and they didn't just give you power. No, you had to earn every bit of it.
But here is where things get really interesting. What if I told you the answer to our whole question isn't some big hypothetical what if? What if the answer has been hiding in plain sight this entire time, just covered up by a clever paint job? So when you're watching Djokovic play, you see him swinging the latest Head Speed Pro, right? The one you can go out and buy in a store. But here's the secret. The racket he's endorsing and the racket he's actually using to win all those Grand Slams, they are two completely different things. What he and pretty much every other top pro uses is something called a pro stock racket. The best way to think about it is like a secret menu item at a restaurant. It's a special, older racket mold that's basically a blank canvas. From there, it gets customized like crazy. We're talking lead tape, silicone, all sorts of things to get it weighted and balanced to his exact specifications.
And just look at how different they are. It's actually staggering. The retail racket you can buy has a big, forgiving 100 square inch head. Djokovic's? It's a much more demanding 95. The retail one weighs about 329 grams. His is a monster at 353 grams. But the biggest deal here is the swing weight. That's how heavy the racket feels when you swing it. His is 360, which is just way higher than the retail version. To put it simply, his racket is an absolute beast to swing.
This beast of a racket even has a name, well, more of a code name, the PT-113B. That's not some fancy product name, it's an internal mold-coated head. You can't just walk into a tennis shop and ask for a PT-113B. It's the foundation, the chassis of the weapon built only for him. So, this is the crucial part. What is this secret mold? And maybe more importantly, where does it come from? Because the answer to that question is really the key to this whole explainer. And here it is. The PT-113B is not some space-age prototype. It's actually based on a racket mold from the early 2000s, which itself was just an evolution of the legendary Head Radical line, the racket that basically defined 90s tennis. So the racket he's using today, at its very core, it's a 90s racket. This connects Djokovic to a very specific design philosophy that was huge back then. See, while the rest of the market started chasing easy, lightweight power, the pros relied on a different idea altogether, achieving incredible control not through a stiff frame, but through pure, simple mass. And this philosophy is pretty straightforward, but man, is it demanding. The idea is you use a heavy racket for stability. It won't get pushed around by your opponent's heavy shots. You use a flexible frame for better feel, so you can tell exactly what the ball is doing. But, and this is a big but, the racket gives you zero free power. You, the player, have to generate everything yourself. It's a setup that rewards perfect technique with the ultimate prize, total precision. So while Djokovic was sticking with this old-school philosophy, the rest of the tennis world, well, it went in a completely different direction. And you can see that shift so clearly when you look at the specs. Compared to a 90s frame, the average modern racket today is way lighter, has a much bigger head, and a thicker, stiffer frame. And all of those changes are designed to do one thing: make it easier for me and you, the average player, to generate power and spin. But look, the frame is only one piece of this puzzle. The single biggest leap in technology in the last 30 years wasn't even in the rackets. Nope, it was in the strings. For about 100 years, natural gut strings were the undisputed king. They had incredible feel and power. Then synthetic strings came along, which were more durable. But in the 1990s, polyester strings showed up, and they completely changed the game. The magic behind polyester is this really cool thing called the snapback effect. See, the strings are super slick, so when the ball hits them, the main strings actually slide out of place. Then, as the ball leaves the racket, they violently snap back into position.
That snapback literally grabs the ball and creates a ridiculous amount of rotation. That's where all the heavy topspin in modern tennis comes from. And this is where Djokovic's setup is just pure genius. He marries both eras. In his main strings, he uses natural gut, the classic string for that amazing feel and power. But in his cross strings, he uses a modern polyester for all the control and crazy spin from the snapback effect. It's like he's paired the soul of a 90s racket with the engine of a modern string bed. Okay, so after all of that, let's circle all the way back to our original question. How good would Novak Djokovic be with a 1990s racket? Let's deliver the final verdict. First off, it's pretty clear that Djokovic has a huge appreciation for the history of the game. When he was a young pro, he hit with an old wooden racket and was just blown away by the skill it took. He said he finally realized how tough it was. That's the mindset of a player who values feel and craft over just raw technology. And that brings us to the real answer. The question was never, what if he used a 90s racket? The truth is, he already does. He uses a frame with the DNA of a 90s classic, heavy, flexible, control-focused. He's just optimized that classic philosophy with modern strings to build the perfect weapon for his game. So he wouldn't just be good with a 90s racket, he is the greatest of all time because of one.
And that just leaves us with one last thing to think about. In this age of constant technological change, Djokovic's dominance is proof that an older way of thinking can still win. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? For the true greats, is that timeless feel actually more important than all the cutting-edge technology?